This is Conversations
with Ronnie Keith
and Iris. All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us with Conversations with
Ronnie Keith
and Iris. We want to thank you guys so much for your
all that love and support.
yes, the fan mail we've received, all the downloads from the different countries and areas and territories that we've received over the last few episodes. Well, I'm not going to say over the last few episodes, since the beginning.
Yeah, since the beginning.
So we're very thankful. We did receive a fan mail from someone in Orlando. It says, I just wanted to let you all know I love hearing both of your voices together on the show.
Oh, I love that.
So that was very nice.
That means a lot. Thank you.
Coming from Orlando. So we really appreciate that. And we do also want to thank you guys for downloading us. Chicago, Illinois, Miami, Florida,
Woo-hoo.
Nagoya, Aichi, I believe that's in Japan.
Oh, nice.
St. Charles, Missouri, Manheim, Baden-Württemberg, Stevenson Ranch, California, Paris. I'm not going to go through all the cities and countries, but
thank you for the love. Really, really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So today we do have another extraordinary special guest on Conversations with Ronnie Keith and Iris.
I'm excited about this topic.
Yeah.
Very excited. Yes. We need this all in our lives.
Yes, we do. Today we'll be talking to Katharine Giovanni, a 3-time award-winning best-selling author, speaker, and one of the original founders of the independent concierge industry. Katharine has authored over 12 books, including her latest release, The Ultimate Path to Forgiveness, Unlocking Your Power. Katharine's journey is one of remarkable resilience, surviving stage 3 breast cancer, and overcoming the hardships of a turbulent childhood.
So today we're going to dig deep into the path of transformation and exploring just the profound impact of forgiveness overall. That's a big thing, forgiveness. And we want to learn how to harness our own intuition abilities to overcome this everyday challenge.
Right, absolutely. And I believe that Katharine will do that. So join us as she shares powerful insights and life-changing lessons that will leave you feeling inspired and empowered. Katharine, thank you so much for joining.
Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it.
Oh, no problem. Thank you. We really appreciate that you took the time out to join us today. So, Katharine, we, of course, wanted to talk to you today as you have been a transformation coach on forgiveness. And of course, that is a very hard thing for a lot of people. But you've also had such an enlightening journey. You survived stage 3 breast cancer. You had a turbulent childhood, which, marked by a suicide attempt as well. So let's dive into, your life.
Your personal journey, your background.
Absolutely.
And, I just would like for you to highlight your milestones, overcoming these personal challenges, especially in your early career, especially in the concierge industry. And how did you shift towards, transformational coaching? Tell us a little bit about yourself.
It wasn't easy. Just say that.
I could only imagine.
Well, I learned, I started in the 8th grade in never mind what year it was. And my parents were both very pickled, meaning they were alcoholics. And I was terribly bullied in school because I was different. I was intuitive. And back then, if you even suggested intuition, they'd slap it, you're crazy, as a bedbug sticker on your forehead, give you medicine, and put you in therapy. So I kind of kept it to myself. Right. And I didn't want the bullies to put me in a locker. So it all came to a head in 1974, and I tried to commit suicide. And I turned into one of those teenagers. And my best friend pulled me out. She's a vascular surgeon today, but I'm just the first life she saved.
Mhm.
And so I just kind of bounced through life until my mother fell down a flight of stairs, broke her hip, and ended up in the hospital.
Oh,
And
wow.
Oh
even
my
my mother
goodness.
couldn't get a gin and tonic in the hospital. So she dried out. We sent her to rehab. And we became closer than sisters. We finished each other's sentences. We lived together. We shared everything together. And then 3 years later, she died of breast cancer. So
Oh,
everybody's life has what I call flashpoints. And you don't know you're going through them when it happens. But when you look back at your life, every single one of us can just pick out that one teacher or that one memory that just sparked change. And that was mine. And I knew that without a doubt, if I didn't change, I was going to die.
right.
So the only New Year's resolution I actually ever kept was to quit drinking. I'm now sober for 35 years.
Oh,
Oh,
And
congratulations.
thank you. And one of the things they make you do, remember, it was the 1900s. I know it sounds like the 1920s whenever I say it. I mean, it was the last century. I just sound as old as dirt, but we
oh
won't go
no.
there. But back then, we didn't have the computers. And when you go to recovery, you have to make amends and you're supposed to
Mhm.
reach out and call people.
Mhm.
I am an extroverted introvert now, back then, painfully shy. I would have easily texted these people if that method was open to me, but I only had two ways to reach out. I either had to call them at the phone or go see them in person. Those were the choices. And I didn't want to call somebody up who might yell at me. Yeah, it just left me cold. So I didn't. But I did pay it lip service. So I did say, I said I was sorry out loud to an empty room. And what I had done is I tapped into the law of forgiveness, which is very much like the law of gravity. It'll work whether you believe it in or not. You can call it anything you like. It doesn't
Mhm.
matter. It still works.
Mhm.
And over the course of a few months, things started to shift. So I kept kind of saying I was sorry to people in my mind. And I met my husband of 33 years. And then eventually I went into the concierge industry and my life started to change.
Mhm.
And and at the time, I didn't understand why forgiving my personal life affected my business, but it did. So I kept doing
Wow.
it. And then when I went into the concierge industry, I trained people on how to be an actual concierge. I did it for over 25 years and I trained them on customer service. And I can teach you guys those beautiful words to say. I can keep you in a room for 3 days and teach you everything you need to do. But
Yeah.
if you're angry,
Mhm.
your anger is going to bleed through your body language, whether you want it to or not. Unless you act like George Clooney, there's
Mhm.
no way you're going to be able to stop it.
Right.
So I had to come up with a method that would allow them to release their anger on the spot because most concierge can't leave their desk or their station. And
Right.
that's when I started to teach forgiveness. And it wasn't until 2020 when I figured out what the special sauce was and what everybody was missing with forgiveness. Because the thing about forgiveness, guys, is everybody tells you to forgive. Everybody, your parents, your
Mhm.
teachers.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Nobody teaches you how.
Church, especially church. Let's delve into
Church,
that.
yep,
Yeah,
church
church
will teach
emphasizes
you.
on that. Yeah.
It's in the Bible. Jesus says, how many times should you forgive? 70 times 7. I've read the Bible. I'm not
Right.
very religious, but I did read the Bible.
Mhm.
But
Yeah.
nobody teaches you how to forgive. They just tell you to do it. And then what if you don't want to? What if it was an unforgivable act? Then what do you do?
Right.
So my method is allowing people to forgive and it's teaching them how. So you can forgive that unforgivable event and you can have a little bit of freedom.
So let me ask you this. Thank you for that. That was a great story that you just told us. With you coming up and all the things that you endured through your childhood,
Mhm.
did you put a lot of blame on your parents for what was going on with you earlier on?
Sure, I did. I was
Mhm.
angry. And I was proud of my story. I was a survivor of suicide. I was a survivor of alcoholism. I was a survivor of my alcoholic parents and my narcissistic father. I was a survivor. And I told the story and I displayed it as loudly as I could. But the thing about telling your story is you're living it and you're breathing it and it's all you can see. And you're missing life around you because you're so knee deep in your hate and your anger that you're missing everything in the world around you. and you start to lose friends because it's all you can think about. It's all you can breathe about. It's all you can talk about. And at the end of the day, I'm on a 10 scale, with 10 being unforgivable dumpster fire and 1
Wow.
being the easiest person in the world to forgive. Every single listener is thinking about their unforgivable person, which is fair, because that's the person or the memory that hurt you the most. So that's where your brain goes. So my system is designed to start you with the easy ones. Listen, it took a long time to get my parents down from an unforgivable 10 down to a forgivable level. That didn't happen overnight. It took a long time to wrap my brain around it. But the whole special sauce to the whole thing is energy.
Right.
People
Absolutely.
come to me all the time and they say, I did do the work. I forgave them.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, you did.
Mm.
But why are you still getting triggered? Why are you, every time you see their name on Facebook or something, you're triggered and you're back into the memory and you think, damn, I did forgive them. I did it. Why am I still angry? Because you didn't forgive the energy. Einstein very clearly proved that energy is neither created nor destroyed. It simply transforms from one thing to another. He also proved that everything on our planet, including this little silver microphone that I'm speaking into, has energy around it.
Right.
So let's give you an example of what I'm talking about. You're driving down the road to work and you usually turn left at the red light. Today you decided to turn right and it took you by your elementary school and you saw it out of the corner of your eye. But by the time you got to work, you're cutting everybody's heads off and you're grumpy and you have no idea why, because you had a perfectly lovely morning.
Right.
Well, because the school triggered you unconsciously.
Mm.
And that movie that plays in the back of your head that you didn't know was there started to play. And the memories started to come to your mind. So it was a trigger. So how do you get rid of the trigger? You forgive the energy. So
Wow.
my mantra that I have in the book, and there's a whole system, I could go over it piece by piece, but it's I completely forgive Ron, because that's my husband's name.
He's a great man. He's a great man.
There you go. Pretty serious. I completely forgive Ron. I forgive the energy around Ron. I completely forgive myself. I forgive the energy around myself. I completely forgive the energy around the entire situation or relationship. And so it is. Amen. End it any way you like. I'm a simple soul. That's all it is. And the system is designed to take you from your easy people all the way to those unforgivable number 10s, which are very hard. They're a bear. It's possible, but it's a bear.
Right.
And you know what, Catherine, and I like that. And you talk about energy. And have you heard that term where people are like, I forgive, but I will never forget? Let's
I'm
talk
from New
about
York.
that.
I'm from New York.
Oh yeah. I'll forgive you.
Oh yeah. I
But I
mean,
will
live
never
in the South
forget.
where they're all polite down here. I'm a native New Yorker. I grew up in Manhattan. We're not forgetting anything, my friend.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
What I can promise you is neutrality. You're not going to forget, but using this system will remove the emotional charge. So you're not going to care good and you're not going to care bad. You're just not going to care. But there's a few things with forgiveness. Just because I forgive you doesn't mean I want a relationship with you. I probably don't. Forgiveness does not necessarily mean repair. You're still wrong. You probably still have to make amends. Forgiveness is selfish. I'm doing it for you. And here's the really big one that trips everybody up. Just because I forgive you doesn't mean I'm giving in all of a sudden. It doesn't mean that you were correct. It doesn't mean that I'm weak.
Yeah.
For you're still wrong and you still have to make amends. What forgiveness means to me, the formal definition is I want you out of my head. That's it. I want to stop thinking about you. I want to stop getting triggered about you. I want to get on with my life. That's what it means. So that you also, in my world, you don't have to reach out to these people. You can do it in the privacy of your own home. Nobody has to know. You don't have to tell a soul. So that being said, you can forgive dead people because where they are or are not doesn't matter a lick. If they're alive in your head, you can forgive it.
And I think, I'm glad that you're saying that. And I can't wait to dive into the system. A lot of times we encounter as people, and I believe this, the forgiveness is about proving right or wrong. You kind of said something there, right? And you want to hang on to, if I forgive them, that means that I'm letting them know that I was wrong and they were right. But that does something to you internally because you're still walking around while that person who may have done something wrong to you is living free because they don't care anymore.
They act like
They don't
nothing
care.
happened.
Yeah. And
They
so
don't
you have
care.
that hanging on your
Yeah.
shoulders.
But it doesn't mean you're giving in. Forgiveness means you just want them out of your head.
Mhm.
When you forgive somebody, they're still wrong. They still have to make amends and do whatever it is they have to do, if they have to do anything. Forgiveness means that you're the prisoner. It's a quote by Buddha that's possibly one of my favorite ever. Hatred and anger is like drinking poison and hoping the other person dies.
Oh wow, that's deep. That's very deep.
Yeah.
So you want them out of your head. And forgiveness is an incredible sign of strength because you want your life back. Now, when you run into this person, are you going to care using my system? Probably not. You're not going to care about them. That's freedom. That's neutrality. I looked at about a couple of years back. I do my own exercises. I actually saw my ex-business partner's name online. And usually that would just send me into the stratosphere and you'd have to peel me off the ceiling, It was and that day I didn't care. And I actually caught myself and I thought, wait a minute, I don't care. I legitimately don't care. That's freedom. That's freedom right there.
That is definitely a big freedom and a sense of relief and not having to care about it anymore. But
Didn't care.
let's dive into the system and the steps necessary in an effective way for us to be able to overcome forgiveness. Can we start with those steps in detail here, high level?
Sure. I want you to sit down alone in a room with your smartphone off. Yeah, there's an off button, people. And if you're starting to visibly bodily twitch, it's just the idea of turning your phone off, there's a mute button. Don't make it vibrate because when it dances on your desk, you're going to turn and look at it. I want you alone in the room. You can have your dog in there if you want, but I really want you alone. And if it's the two of you, again, I want the two of you alone in a room, that kind of thing. You can do this with a partner or a friend, but my only PSA and warning is make sure their name isn't on your own list. That might get awkward.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Right.
And make sure they can keep a secret because you don't need them going onto social media and spreading all the skeletons in your closet. So those are my only two warnings. But it's a brilliant exercise to do with people. And I want you to get a piece of paper and a pen. And it's not because I'm old fashioned. There have been hundreds of studies done. One in particular was done at Harvard University, and they followed these kids through the years. And they had half the kids say their goals out loud to the room. The other half, they said, write down your goals. And they followed them for a few years. The kids that wrote their goals down were twice as successful as the ones who didn't. So find that piece of paper and try and not do it on your smartphone. And I want you to write a list of all the people you think you need to forgive. Either your number 10s, your unforgivables are going to be at the very top of that list because that's what everybody does. That's fine. That's great. Write everybody down. And I don't want you to judge the names. And I want you to think about people from the time you were in the first grade to present day.
Ooh, now that's hard.
Oh my
goodness. That's hard, Katharine.
No,
you said don't judge the names. That's hard.
And if you can't remember the names, write down the kid in room 3.
You know what? I think that would be easy I'm not going to say easier because I need to do this, right? But what about the people that may get triggered just by the name and are writing it down?
Then write down where you knew it, the kid in grade school, and you'll know who you're talking about. Just write down whatever you think. The kid that wore the blue sweater.
Right, gotcha.
If the name triggers you. And then once you get all your names down, and you could have 3 names, you could have 20. Personally, I wrote 50 when I first did the exercise. It's a little bit of an overachiever. And then I want you to rate these people from 1 to 10, 10 being horrific. Now, you could have 7 number 5s. I don't care. You could skip a number. I equally don't care. What I do care about is you start with the number 1s and you work your way up the list. You save those horrible ones for the very last. And we'll talk about, if there's time, how to forgive the unforgivable ones. Okay. So I want you to be alone in the room, and I want you to imagine the person in front of you as you knew them back then. If
Okay.
it was the childhood bully in grammar school, which was one of mine, imagine that girl as she was in grade school standing in front of you, not the adult.
Mhm.
And then I want you to say whatever you want. You yell, scream, get closure, do whatever you want. And if you can't imagine the person in your mind's eye, put a chair in front of you and talk to the chair. I'm actually not kidding. You could even put their name in the chair or their picture if you really, really want to. But if you
Mhm.
can't imagine it in your mind's eye, like a movie playing in your head, just talk to a chair. And then once you're finished talking, I want you to put your hand in your heart to remind you to say the words from your heart. And the words are just for us silly humans. It's really the energy behind the words where the magic is. And
Mhm.
I want you to say the mantra that I said before. And then after you said the mantra, check in with your body. Are you still angry, or is that number one person a 0? It's gone? Great. Cross their name off the list. Is that number 3 person, it was a number 3 person, is it down to a 2? Great. Put the new number next to their name. Here's an interesting one. Did that number, this happened to a friend of mine, did that number 3 bump up to a 9? What happened?
Mm.
She was even
Mm.
more angry. Well, forgiveness is like an onion. And she forgave that very first layer. And what her brain did, which is a marvelous tool, it protects you. And it
Mhm.
said, wow, that back closet that's padlocked in the back of your head that you don't know is there. Well, you
Mhm.
just opened up the door. And now your brain is going, wow, Ron is ready for it now. And I'm going to flood his brain with all sorts of memories that you didn't know were there.
Wow.
Now you have a whole fresh set of people to forgive. Thank you, brain. But so you write the number 9 next to their name, and
Mhm.
you wait 24 hours and you try again. And I want you to do this before bed because your body heals itself when it's sleeping. Now, why did I say that? There's another saying that people bandy around without even thinking about it. Anger is toxic. Okay,
Mhm.
I agree with it, but why? How? Is it like radio waves? I mean, how is it toxic? Well, there was a study done. You could Google it. It's right online. It's called the Japanese Water Study by a guy named Hasumoto. I can't pronounce his name, but it's something like that. And he took several containers of water, and I'll say it fast just in the interest of time. One container of water, all he did was talk to it, spoke love to it. That's all he did. The other container of water, he said the most hateful things he could think of. He then froze the water and put it under a microscope. The water he spoke love to had these gorgeous snowflake crystal kind of images. The pictures are right online. They're fascinating. The water he spoke hate to had these malformations, and they were black and brown, and they were so ugly. Why am I telling you this?
Wow.
The human body is over 95% water. So when
Right.
you're filled with hate and anger and you've got bad self-talk, what do you think you're doing to the water molecules within your own body?
Mm.
Mm. Wow.
Drop the mic on that
Yeah.
one, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
That's
Yeah.
and forgiveness is going to transmute all of that energy. It's going to, energy is neither created nor destroyed. It just transforms. So when you forgive, you're literally changing the molecules within your body.
Right. And that makes a lot of sense, right? So let's backtrack a little bit. Your one friend, that
Mhm.
3 bumped up to a 9. And so that may have been a person that may be deemed unforgivable.
Possibly.
How do you, as a person, forgive someone that you're at the point of this person is unforgivable? How does that happen?
I
How do you even
believe
go there?
I believe there are certain things in this world that are 100% unforgivable. 100%. There might be a unicorn human on the planet somewhere that can forgive these horrible things, but I'm probably not one of them. And I wrote the book on this.
Mhm.
But what I want you to do is if you can't forgive the person, and if they're a number 10, you probably can't. And we'll take one of my number 10s, which is my father. We'll just use me as an example. And I
Mhm.
was so angry at my father, I couldn't forgive my father. He's passed away now, so we're good. I couldn't forgive the energy around dad because I was that mad. I didn't even want to forgive the energy. So what I did is I picked apart the memory. You could
Mm.
forgive people, places, and things. So I picked apart a few memories. Let's
Mhm.
take the
That's good
bully
to
for
know.
example, because this is an example that's pretty clear. And I wasn't ready to forgive the bully in school or the energy around the bully. So I picked apart the memory. I forgave the school building and the energy around the school because it was a trigger. Whenever I saw it, I would get triggered. So I forgave the energy around the building. I forgave the desk that I sat at, the energy around the desk. I forgave the chair that I sat on, the energy around the chair. I'm not kidding. I forgave the playground and the swing set and the kids that stood around and didn't help, and the energy around all these things. I still haven't forgiven the bully or the energy yet, but I've managed to get this number 10 memory. I might have gotten it to a 9 or a 9.5 at this point. So I've actually gotten it down, and I haven't forgiven the bully yet. So you pick another memory and you pull it apart again.
Like a reverse
forgive
onion.
the other parts of the memory.
Yeah, like a reverse onion, like you were saying earlier,
Exactly.
the onion effect, but this was in reverse. You're going inside.
Exactly.
Okay.
And Katharine, going back to that backtracking, how long did that take you? Let's take, for instance, you had this bully when you were in elementary school or middle school or wherever it was. How long did the process take? Because I feel like in order for me to really forgive somebody, it's going to take a series of, I feel like, days, because it's kind of like, how do I take this memory apart of this, what this person did to me? And every time I see them, I pretty much want to punch them. So like, how long can a process take to eliminate that person and feel that energy?
I know the listeners want me to say 24 hours, you're good to go. I can't say that to you guys. It's going to take, in many cases, months. It took me months to forgive my father. It took me months to forgive that bully. Because remember, I'm about to be 64, and this happened in the 1970s. So it's kind of ridiculous that a 60-something-year-old woman is getting upset about something that happened in the 70s. Yet I was, and it was affecting my life because I was still carrying it. So it took me months to get this down. But as the good news is, as you pull apart the memory, as you forgive, and as you forgive the easy ones, the person who stole your parking space at the grocery store yesterday, the person who cut you off on I-95, the football team that lost the Super Bowl, you can forgive them.
Right.
Yeah.
You can forgive anything. You can forgive politicians, dare I say. I'm not going there. You can forgive the war in the Middle East. What's it going to do for the war in the Middle East? Absolutely nothing, but it's going to do wonderful things for you and your mental health. And as you forgive these easy ones, your world's going to open up because you're going to start to pay attention again. You're going to see these money-making opportunities. You're going to see your dream significant other. Why didn't you see these people before? Well, you kind of said it in the introduction when you introduced me. Anger blocks your intuition. It acts like a shield. So you literally couldn't hear that little bird in your shoulder. You couldn't hear your gut. The volume was off. You couldn't hear it because you were so focused on your anger and what's been happening to you. You literally couldn't hear your intuition. So you silenced it. And as you open up your life and as you open that up, you're going to start to be able to trust your gut again. And you're going to start to pay attention to the world again. And you're going to start to feel better. Now, people are going to notice, right? So there's some things that are absolutely going to happen to you. Like energy attracts like energy. So you're going to be attracting like people into your life. Great. Love that. Okay. Well, I'm going to play the devil's advocate now. On the other side of the coin, you're going to have jackrabbits. And you're going to have these people that are your besties. We love you. And then you start to change them. They ghost you. Out of your life they go. I had a bunch of them. I've never seen them again. And a couple of them have tried to come back. Well, it's up to you if you want to take them back at the end of the day. That's your call. Then you've got the saboteurs who like the old you. They don't want you to change. They like the broken you. So they're going to try and sabotage it. So Jim Rohn says you're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most of time with, and it's up to you who you spend your time with and who you keep in your life and who you toss. Gently, of course. Don't toss them like a bag of potatoes. You know?
Right. That wouldn't be good. So, Katharine, I appreciate that piece. So one thing I have to ask is, you get into what I would call, I call your steps, right? And I also call it the forgiveness room. That's what I'm going to call it for me. The forgiveness room.
That's a good thing. That's a good name for it.
I sit down in the forgiveness room, and the person, I pull up a chair
Mhm.
and I write down on a pen and paper, turn off my phone, all those things, and go through the speech with, you know, me and the person, or, the name, or, something that signifies who that person is to me.
Right.
What happens when you do that and that person was probably at a 7, and eventually over time they've dropped to pretty much a 0 at that point, right? Because this has been
Right.
a few months that you've practiced this and it does work. And then of course that uneventful day you run into that person, and it just, you haven't seen that person, for instance, with your elementary school bully, you haven't
Mhm.
seen them for years,
Mhm.
and then something triggers you. If that does happen, how do you combat that? Because in your mind, you believe that you have fully forgiven this person. Like, you fully, for the mention of that person's name, all
Mhm.
these things, you have fully forgiven that person. But the physical appearance of that person just re-triggered you. It brought back those memories. How do you combat that?
You don't. You be kind to yourself. We're human. And, obviously this person was a harder forgiveness than you originally realized, because your brain
Mm,
is protecting you, and it probably has some memories back there that you literally didn't remember. And when you see this person again, maybe that closet opened up and you remembered things. But
so,
because they used to be a 10 and you thought you got them down to a 1,
mm,
when you meet this person, it's going to go a lot easier for you. You're not going to want to, punch their lights out anymore, because you're not.
it's not that
You're going to be
severe.
able. I'm the queen of small talk, man. I know how to talk to narcissists, man. You just keep the conversation on them and talk about them. And when they want to talk about you, no, you flip it right back at them. There you go. Class is over. So, I am the queen of keeping the conversation off me. I'm good at it. So
Right.
this is when, if you're with your bully, keep the conversation on them, their life, their stuff, and then walk away. Go to your
Mm,
car. And this happened to me once, and I got back to my car and I thought I'd forgiven this person, and it's just kind of tripping me up a little bit. So, I was kind to myself, and I got into my car and I yelled a little bit. The windows were up, nobody heard me. And
right.
then I just said, I forgive them, I forgive them, I forgive them, I forgive them, maybe 50 times. Did I forgive them? Yeah, I kind of did. And I kind of didn't. So I kind of reminded me to get back into that space. And then, because I want you to do this at night before you go to sleep, that night I practiced the forgiveness routine again on this person. And it went 100% easier this time.
Mm,
100% easier. But there's other things within that memory that are probably tripping you up. So when I say forgive the building and pull apart the memory, that's what I did. Maybe it was their clothes. Maybe it was because we were in a park or something, but there's other pieces of that memory that are still lingering. I forgave 1974, the whole year. Now I
wow.
Mm.
picked apart the memory because that's when the bullies, and that's the year I tried to commit suicide, but it was still bugging me. And I thought I got everybody down to a 1, but it was still bugging me. So I forgave New York City and the energy around New York City. I forgave 1974. I'm not kidding. The energy around 1974. I also forgave breast cancer and the energy around breast cancer. I forgave the chemo drip, the chemo chair, radiation, and the energy around all these
Everything,
things.
all that energy.
I picked apart everything and forgave it
Mhm.
all.
Wow.
And in your book, Catherine, The Ultimate Path to Forgiveness, Unlocking
Mhm.
Your Power, you detailed how forgiveness can lead to profound personal change.
Yeah.
You emphasize on that. We are human. And
Yeah.
then what I like about it is that you seemingly integrate, like, different intuitions into practical guidance, right? From a both personal and professional growth, right? That's
Yeah.
that's that's what you do. So, what are those simple strategies or exercise you suggest for our listeners today, just to tap into their own intuition abilities to overcome everyday challenges? Because I mean, at work, it's just something that we get frustrated, right? We deal with a lot of people like, oh man, I don't want to talk to her. She backstabbed me, or she told my manager on me. What is your suggestion on that?
I mean, I'm not the only person who wants to throw their computer out the window once in a while.
No,
Or that coworker
unfortunately-
that complained on you?
Unfortunately, not.
It's not just me, really?
No.
Okay. Listen, we're all human, and humans irritate other humans. And at the end of the day, what I do is I'll do this practice at night, and I will think of the things I'm most grateful for. And then I'll work in my forgiveness practice, never doing more than 10 in a sitting, because you could make yourself sick, literally. When I first did this, I must have put 50 people down on the list, and I thought, this is going to be great. I'm going to be like a phoenix rising from the ashes. I'm going to wake up tomorrow a completely new person. Didn't work out the way I thought it was. I did forgive many people on the list, but I spent the next 3 days in bed with what everybody thought was a stomach flu. Remember those water cells? They got to go someplace, right?
That's
Yeah.
right.
So
That's right.
that's why I only want you to do like 10 at a time. Now, what if you're at work? What do? You can't leave your station and somebody did something and you're absolutely furious. Well, I want you to remove yourself from this situation. Go outside. Take some air. When we get angry, we start breathing very shallow. So the first thing I want you to do is take some very deep breaths. Even if you can't leave your station, turn around and put your back to them and take some really deep breaths, because believe it or not, that's going to help. And the next thing I want you to do is, this is going to sound really, really weird, but dogs don't get PTSD. Why? Because they shake. Think about it. They shake. Think about dogs, and they shake. Even cats will do it. My cat does it.
That's a good point.
Our
dogs do it.
Now, if you stand up in the middle of your office and start shaking around and moving around like a lunatic, they're going to think you're nuts. But you could go to the men's room or the ladies' room, go into a store and literally shake your body out. Taylor Swift had it right. Shake it out. Shake your arms, shake your legs, shake your body, shake your entire body. Take some deep, deep breaths and go get a cup of tea or a hot beverage and then go back to your station. And whoever pissed you off, write it down in your phone and then add them to your practice that night. I promise you this will work.
Okay.
Literally shake it off. Now, if you want to do it in front of people, go ahead. You could say, oh, it's a new dance craze that I just came up with. But you're literally shaking off the stress, because that's what animals do. Elephants, everybody, all the animal kingdom knows a lot of stuff, and they shake.
Yeah, they absolutely do. Wow.
They shake.
That's wonderful.
Now,
Wow.
when you forgive, how do you know you've forgiven the person? When
That's a
you
good
can look at
question.
their name and there's no emotional charge. That's when you know
No
you're
triggers.
safe. There's no trigger. You know, you can look at that name or go and see them at a party and they're across the room. And the last time you saw them at a party, you wanted to leave. But this
Right.
time you're standing there with your drink and you're looking at them and you don't give a flying fig. You don't care. That's freedom. Now, are you going to want to walk up and talk to them? Probably not. I wouldn't. But if they come up to me, I'll talk about the weather. I'm very good at small talk, and I'm keeping the conversation on them, but you're not going to care. You're not going to care. You're not going to want to leave. You're literally going to be free.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing. And something that I encourage everyone, and not only just our listeners, but us to really
Yeah, we need to start
dive
doing that.
into. I'm actually going to, do that, Catherine. I'm going to get into my, as I call it, forgiveness room
There you
and
go.
work on that. Because, it can control you. It's a controlling thing for your life when you have someone that has that much power. Just the name or the thought of
Right.
those
Yeah.
people have that much
You'll never
power.
tell them,
Right.
but then again, it's like a trigger. That's the
Yeah.
funny thing about it. It's like you'll never tell the person. It's just
You don't
like,
have to. But that's
yeah.
the thing. This is not a recovery program. You don't have to reach out and make amends. You do this in the quiet of your own room. But they're going to notice. They're going to look at you and say, you look different today. Did you cut your hair? What's different about you today? And you can tell them or not. That's completely up to you. Now, this is the first book of 3, and the next book I'm actually writing as we speak. And it's such an important topic. I'm devoting almost all the book to it, How to Forgive Yourself.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's book 2 in the forgiveness
That is book
series.
2, and I'm going to dive a little bit deeper into how to forgive the unforgivable. But a lot of the time, you are your own unforgivable person.
Katharine, when do you expect for that book to be published?
Everybody's asking me that. I'm hoping this summer or sooner. I'm literally right in the middle of writing it, so I'm writing as fast as I can.
Oh, we definitely got to bring you back to delve into that book. Just dedicate a whole episode to that.
Absolutely.
Like from the beginning to end.
Yes, yes.
This
And
is a very, very powerful practice, and I'll give you an example that might stretch your listeners' brains a little bit. I apologize for the pain. A little bit brain stretching here.
nothing
I
wrong with that.
forgave
No, good.
a level 1 person from my childhood. And I couldn't even remember what I was angry about or for. I just couldn't. It was so many decades ago. And I hadn't spoken to this person in decades. So I do my own exercises, and I sat down and I put my hand in my heart and I talked to her, and I imagined that she left the room after I was done. And I first imagined that she left toward the window, and I thought, no, she just went to her death. So I had to do it again and imagine that she walked out the door. A little OCD on my part. And then the boys were, my sons are outgrown and, they're gone now, but the boys were little. So I had to go off and do something else. 2 hours later, this is a true story. 2 hours later, she calls me up on the phone. I haven't heard from her in decades. And
Whoa.
my concierge training kicked in virtually immediately, and because I was shocked out of my mind. And we said the right words, made all the right noises, and did what people do when they're making up, and we reminisced. But I couldn't stand it. And I said, after all these years, why did you call me today? She said, it was the damnedest thing. 2 hours ago, which was exactly when I was saying this mantra, by the way, a figurine you gave me in school fell off my shelf, landed in the middle of the floor. I picked it up and thought I should give you a call.
Wow.
She was 700 miles away.
Wow.
So if the law of forgiveness has the power to move a figurine off a shelf for a level 1 person, and if it has the power to shift those water molecules within your own body, can you imagine what it's going to do when you hit those higher numbers? And can you imagine how that's going to blast through your life and allow your authentic self to come through finally?
My goodness. Wow. That is amazing.
It really is.
Wow, that's amazing, Katharine. Well, I just want to encourage everyone, please take the time out. If you have a moment, Katharine, as she says, she has an audiobook and regular book, The Science of Forgiveness, a Revolutionary New Approach. And then coming soon, How to Forgive Yourself.
Yeah.
We don't have a date yet, but you can also find Katharine on her website, and that's KatharineGiovanni.com. That's KatharinGiovanni.com. When you open up this podcast episode, you'll see it also on the podcast.
Beautiful
cover
website,
there.
by the way, Katharine. I just have to say, it's very detailed. I love the colors, everything, your blogs, your videos. I just want to definitely compliment you on that. It's just beautiful. I just wanted to let our listeners know how informative it was.
Absolutely.
I did the website myself. So
it's
Oh,
beautiful.
wow. That's wonderful. That is wonderful.
I like
You
doing
don't hear
stuff
too
like
much.
that. So I just kind of tinker. Back in the day when we were starting our first business, it was 1995 or something, when we had big, huge computers with dial-up modems, and you could get a cup of coffee and a sandwich.
Remember when you picked up the phone? It was like, shh.
Yeah, that AOL. No, yes,
we're 90s babies. We know it.
Yeah. And so
Wow.
I needed to do a website. We didn't have 2 dimes to scrape together. So my husband's like, well, you're clever. You could figure it out. So I figured it out. And I've kind of been tinkering with it ever since.
Well, you've done an amazing job, better job than I could ever do.
Oh my God,
so
absolutely.
I would say, hey, let me give some money to someone to build this up. But you have done a wonderful job with your website. And you also have what they can do is subscribe to your newsletter, the Thriving Times, as well. They put their email address there, and you'll send them some encouraging thoughts and articles, tips, and things like that. And so really, really encourage everyone to go to your website.
Definitely. And Katharine, from the bottom of our hearts, we want to thank you so much for sharing your remarkable journey and powerful insights, and that have shaped not only the person that you are, but your work. You could definitely see it. You speak about it. You see it in your work. You're very passionate about it. And I appreciate your honest discussion on forgiveness, intuition, and the transformation. This has been really just inspiring alone. And really, really want to thank you and our listeners for joining us on this enlightening conversation because overall it's very informative.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Oh, yes, absolutely. This has been Conversations with
Ronnie Keith,
and Iris.
thank you.